So, guys, over the past few months, the conversation around the Washington Commanders has changed completely. After an aggressive offseason and the rise of Jayden Daniels, many people now believe this team has everything it takes to make a serious Super Bowl run. But if you deeply analyze the roster and whatever the Commanders did these past few seasons, you will understand. There's still one major obstacle standing in their way. It's one part of this roster that could ultimately decide just how far Washington can go in 2026. So, let's break down what that obstacle is and why it could define the Commanders' season. What's up, Commanders Nation? Welcome to the NFL Playbook Commanders. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Okay, so look, everybody wants to talk about Jayden Daniels this offseason, and honestly, I get it. The guy is special. But I keep coming back to this one part of the team that nobody wants to talk about, and that's the running back room and the offensive line working together. Because, honestly, that's the group that decides whether this offense actually gets to run all the fun stuff that puts up points, or whether it just kind of survives week to week. Here's the thing about this group. Football, at the end of the day, is all about protecting your quarterback and giving him room to work. And I think a lot of fans just assume that if you have a franchise quarterback, everything else just falls into place. But that's not how it works, guys. A great offensive line and a good running back can make an average quarterback look like a star. And on the flip side, even the best quarterback in the world is in trouble if the protection breaks down, or the run game can't punish a defense for stacking the box. So let's start with the backfield, because this is where I think a lot of Commanders fans are going to be surprised. Right now, entering training camp, nobody has actually locked down that starting job yet. It's a genuinely open competition, 6 deep in that room. The guy with the strongest case right now is Jacory Croskey-Merritt, who everybody calls Bill, and man, the potential here is real. As a 7th-round rookie last year, Bill led this entire backfield in carries, rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, and first downs, including that 72-yard touchdown run on Christmas Day. That run alone got people excited about what he could become. But if we're being honest, he's still got real work to do. Ball security was an issue for him as a rookie, and he's still developing as a pass protector and a receiver. Those are not small things in this league. You can't stay on the field on early downs if you can't handle third down duties. So, the flashes are exciting, I'm not going to pretend they're not, but until he cleans up the fumbles and rounds out his game, I can't call him a finished product yet. Right behind him, pushing hard, is Rachaad White. And I like what Rachaad White brings, honestly. He's reliable, he protects football, he gets what's blocked for him, he does a good job in pass protection. And when the offense needs just a yard or two to move the sticks, he's one of the more consistent backs in the league at picking that up. But here's what I don't see from Rachaad White yet, and this is the part that worries me a little. He doesn't create a ton on his own. I mean, when he doesn't have a lane block for him, he's not the guy who's making 3 defenders miss and turning a 2-yard loss into a 15-yard gain. He's not a big-time breakaway threat right now. So he raises the floor of this offense for sure, but I don't know if he's raising the ceiling. And there's a real difference between those two things. And look, protecting the football matters more than people give it credit for. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you're putting the ball on the ground in big spots, none of that talent matters. So I actually respect what Rachaad White brings there. He's the kind of veteran who's not going to hand the other team a free possession just because he tried to do too much. That's valuable, especially early in a season when a new offensive coordinator is still figuring out his rhythm and his rotations. But when I think about the backs who really change a game, guys like Bijan Robinson or Jonathan Taylor or even Derrick Henry, there's this extra gear they have. They make you miss in a phone booth. They turn a stuffed run into a first down because of pure vision and burst. And right now, I just don't see that same gear from Rachaad White. That doesn't mean he's a bad player, not even close. It just means he's more of a steady piece than a game-changing one. And for this offense to take that jump into the top tier of the league, somebody eventually has to bring that extra element to the table. Behind those two, you've got Jeremy McNichols, Jerome Ford, Kaytron Allen, and Robert Henry Jr. rounding out that room. And look, I actually like this group as a collective. I think it's a deep room, a room full of guys who can step in and not completely sink the offense if somebody gets hurt. But I'm looking at this room and I'm asking myself the same question I'd ask about any backfield trying to become elite. Where's the guy who scares a defensive coordinator? Where's the back who forces a defense to play honest because if they don't, he's going to make them pay for it? Right now, I don't think that guy is on the roster yet. Maybe Bill grows into that role in year 2. That's honestly the best case scenario for this offense, but we haven't seen it yet, and until we do, I think it's fair to call this a question mark. Now let's shift over to the offensive line, because honestly, this group and the backfield are basically joined at the hip. You can't talk about one without the other, and here I actually feel a lot better, guys. This offensive line has some real building blocks. Laremy Tunsil at left tackle is about as good as it gets. He's the highest paid offensive lineman in the league now, and honestly, watching him play, you understand why. He's not just solid, he's the kind of tackle who can shut down an elite pass rusher on his own and let the rest of the offense breathe. That's a true difference maker up front. Conerly Jr. at right tackle is somebody I'm really excited about too. He struggled some as a rookie, which is normal, but by the second half of last season, he looked like a completely different player. He reshaped his body this offseason, and from everything coming out of camp, he's taking that development even further. If he keeps trending the way he has been, he could become a real anchor on that side. Then Sam Cosmi at right guard gives this line a proven physical presence in the interior. He's been steady for years now, and he's the kind of veteran presence that helps everybody else around him play faster and more confident. Then in the middle, Nick Allegretti steps in at center. He brings experience and communication skills, which matters a ton for a line that's still figuring out its identity under a new offensive coordinator in David Blough. The one spot that's still up for grabs is left guard, where Brandon Coleman and Chris Paul are competing for the job. Both guys have shown flashes, but neither one has fully locked down that spot yet. Chris Paul brings more physicality and can really dig defenders out at the point of attack, while Brandon Coleman offers more athleticism and range, especially when it comes to getting out in front on screens and reaching linebackers at the second level. Whoever wins that battle is going to matter a lot for how consistent this line looks on early downs, and honestly, training camp reps are going to tell us a lot more than anything we can predict right now. And then behind the starters, you've got depth guys like Andrew Wiley and Trent Scott, who both started games in this league before, so if there's an injury, this isn't a situation where the whole operation falls apart. That's a completely different spot than this team was in just a couple years ago, when one injury up front could turn into a full-blown crisis. Now there's actual insurance behind the starting five, and that matters over a 17-game season. What really stands out to me about this offensive line is how it fits what David Blough wants to run. This is a zone blocking scheme, which means athleticism and communication matter just as much as raw power. Linemen have to work in sync, get to the second level, and create running lanes based on how the defense reacts, not just blow guys off the ball in one spot. That's exactly why Nick Allegretti in the middle is so important. He's the guy making the calls, getting everybody on the same page before the snap, and that kind of communication is what turns a good scheme on paper into a good scheme on Sundays. So when you put it all together, here's where I land on this. The offensive line, for the first time in a while, actually looks like a strength for this team. Tunsil, Conerly, Cosmi, and Allegretti give Jayden Daniels a real foundation to work behind, and that left guard competition should only make the group sharper heading into the season. But the backfield is still the piece that hasn't proven it yet. Rachaad White gives you a steady floor, Bill gives you upside if he takes that next step, but nobody in that room has shown, over a full season, that they can consistently create explosive plays on their own. And that's really the obstacle I keep coming back to. It's not about whether this offense can move the ball. With Jayden Daniels at quarterback and Terry McLaurin on the outside, this offense is going to move the ball no matter what. The real question is whether the running game can become dangerous enough, on top of everything else, to turn this offense from good into truly explosive. Because that's usually what separates teams that make deep playoff runs from teams that just get in the door and go home early. So, heading into training camp, this is the storyline I'm watching the closest. Forget the quarterback questions, forget the defensive questions, this team has already answered a lot of those. The real swing factor for Washington's ceiling in 2026 sits right here in that running back room. And whether this now much improved offensive line in front of them is enough to finally push somebody in that backfield over the top. Because if that happens, guys, this offense stops being just good and starts being the kind of offense that can go win you 4 games in January. That's where I'm at with this one. I think the pieces are there. I think David Blough has enough talent to work with up front and in the backfield to make this thing click. But until I actually see it on the field, until one of these backs proves he can be that guy who changes the math for a defense, I'm not ready to call this a finished offense just yet. That's the one obstacle standing between this team and a real Super Bowl run, and training camp is going to start giving us our first real answers. Alright, that's what I've got for this one. Let me know down in the comments who you think steps up in that backfield this year, whether it's Rachaad White holding on to that job, or Bill taking that leap in year 2. I'll catch you in the next one.